who has identified himself as a longtime Democratic staffer. This is not a Republican operative, a Democratic staffer who was working in Democratic offices at the time of the alleged leaking in 16-17. This staffer was interviewed by FBI agents on several occasions and told those agents that then Congressman Adam Schiff was the one who approved the leaks to the media.
The myth of a fearless truth-teller crumbles when Megyn Kelly takes aim, exposing Adam Schiff as a master of empty grandstanding and political theater. Instead of delivering the bombshells he promised, his career became a parade of dramatic speeches and hollow accusations. Kelly dismantles his carefully crafted image piece by piece, revealing a legacy built not on statesmanship, but on an obsession with cameras, sound bites, and the fleeting applause of Washington's echo chamber.
A staff member began talking to the FBI in 2017 because he said he considered the leaks to be, quote, unethical, illegal, and treasonous. This is a Democrat staffer who is saying to the FBI he had a holy shit moment when he heard Adam Schiff give the order. These documents that outline the FBI's interview, like the FBI doesn't tape its interviews. They go back and they report what they heard in.
Adam Schiff has built an entire career out of being the political world's self-appointed detective. Except instead of solving crimes, he manufactures conspiracies, waves around empty promises, and pretends every vague hunch is a smoking gun. Megyn Kelly doesn't just expose him. She dismantles the Schiff persona layer by layer, showing how the man who branded himself as a truth-teller has instead become one of the most shameless performers in Washington. Schiff is the embodiment of political theater, dramatic, loud, and utterly hollow when the lights go out.
Shock the world right now and defend Adam Schiff. In response to the heat he's getting for the following clip.
It is an existential threat, Senator, and also
asleep.
I have not seen it yet, but from what I've heard about former FBI Director Ray,
someone in the audience behind
comments on 60
Pam
Minutes regarding China
is videotaping Adam Schiff asleep.
In our own country, infiltrating our water systems, our natural gas lines.
I defend Adam Schiff because these
Kelly points out how Schiff perfected the art of the serious face during television interviews, as if widening his eyes and lowering his voice could somehow substitute for facts. He promised Americans there was evidence of collusion, so explosive it would change history. He teased blockbuster revelations, acted like he was sitting on the political equivalent of nuclear codes, and then delivered nothing. Time after time, Schiff's investigations turned out to be less Sherlock Holmes and more Scooby-Doo. And unlike the cartoon, there was no big reveal, just endless speculation that dissolved into thin air.
I believe he's going to weaponize the DOJ to use it against his opponents. I believe that's what was done to him. Though, as we discussed with Alan Dershowitz in that now famous clip that went around where I said we need Steve Bannon, I'm not totally opposed to it. I'm going to be honest. Who would cry a tear if Adam Schiff actually got some sort of hassle thrown his way by the DOJ?
Because Adam Schiff doesn't deal in truth. He deals in innuendo. His specialty isn't uncovering corruption. It's dragging out narratives just long enough to keep himself relevant. Megyn Kelly hammers this home by pointing out the obvious. If Schiff actually had evidence half as powerful as he claimed, it would have surfaced years ago. Instead, he stretched hearings, fed sound bites to networks, and made himself the hero of a story that never existed. He isn't a watchdog. He's a hype man for conspiracy theater.
Schiff stated the group would leak classified information which was derogatory to the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. Schiff stated the information would be used to indict President Trump. The whistleblower stated this would be illegal. And upon hearing his concerns, unnamed members of the meeting reassured that they would not be caught leaking classified information.
What makes Schiff such an easy target is how confidently he doubles down even after being proven wrong. Most politicians, when exposed, at least attempt damage control. Schiff, on the other hand, acts like the audience is too stupid to notice. Megyn Kelly roasts this arrogance mercilessly. She highlights how Schiff could stand in front of cameras, repeat claims that never materialized, and then pivot into acting like the real problem was people questioning him. It's the kind of brazen gaslighting you'd expect from a bad salesman, insisting a lemon is a luxury car. Schiff didn't just bend the truth. He treated truth like a prop.
Pardoned Adam Schiff at the end of his term. But unlike the one he gave to Hunter, it was a limited pardon.
It was.
And it only spoke to J6 and his work on the January 6th Select Committee. So it would not immunize him from any of the claims you and I are discussing right now, right?
Kelly also zeroes in on the sheer hypocrisy Schiff carries around like a badge of honor. This is a man who claims to fight corruption, but had no problem manipulating the system when it benefited him, whether it was leaking selective information to the press, pushing half-baked intelligence narratives, or grandstanding in hearings. Schiff's career has been less about serving the people and more about serving Adam Schiff. The guy treats the House floor like it's his audition for an HBO drama, always trying to land a dramatic line that makes the evening news. And here's where Megyn Kelly's takedown cuts deepest. Schiff's obsession with attention wasn't just embarrassing. It was destructive. While he was busy selling himself as the savior of democracy, Congress was being dragged through endless partisan circuses that wasted years of legislative time. Megyn calls him out as the perfect example of a politician who prioritizes headlines over results. Because when you look at Schiff's actual accomplishments outside of his endless investigations, the record is barren. He's been in office for decades, yet ask his constituents what he's delivered for them, and you'll hear crickets. His biggest achievement has been perfecting outrage theater.
So walk us through what the 302 reports that the FBI wrote up after their interviews with this whistleblower say.
Yeah, so let's give you a sense of who this person is. We don't know their name because the name is redacted, but we know their career. They're a career intelligence officer. So they started in the executive branch as an intelligence officer, and then they get detailed to the Democratic side of the House Intelligence Committee. Eventually, this person inherits as his boss, Adam Schiff, when Adam Schiff takes over as the Democrat minority ranking member on House Intelligence in 2016. And they're working for Adam Schiff. And somewhere in the beginning of the Russia collusion, false narrative building in America, he attends a meeting where Adam Schiff says, we're going to...
The highlight of Schiff's career, if you can even call it that, was the impeachment drama. He milked those hearings for every ounce of camera time, speaking with a tone so sanctimonious, it made him sound like a failed actor trying to deliver Shakespeare in a high school gym. Megyn Kelly roasts the performance for what it was. Scripted outrage designed not to reveal truth, but to make Schiff the face of resistance. And like every other show he's headlined, the finale was anticlimactic. Schiff didn't change history. He didn't uncover conspiracy he promised. He just wasted months of America's time. Megyn points out that Schiff's problem isn't that he lies outright. It's that he hides behind words like a magician hides behind smoke. He'll never say, I have proof right here. Instead, he'll say, the evidence suggests we've seen signs. There are reasons to believe. These phrases sound serious until you realize they're empty shells giving him cover when nothing pans out. It's political sleight of hand. Say enough to stir outrage, but not enough to be held accountable. Schiff mastered that trick, but Megyn Kelly exposes it for what it is, a lazy con.
To the legal experts I've talked to, he's only immunized for what he did related from January 6th forward of 2021. So these things occurred in 17 and 18. You've got the mortgage issue, which is also based on our reporting, a story we broke last October on the counting two houses as his primary residence to get better mortgage deals. Those would fall outside of the pardon, according to the legal experts who've looked at it. And I suspect if those get to the case of criminality at some point, that there may be some legal challenges trying to test that pardon.
And then there's Schiff's obsession with Donald Trump, which Megyn Kelly skewers like a chef carving a steak. Schiff built his entire brand on being the man who would take Trump down. He appeared on television night after night, promising that Trump's fall was imminent, that accountability was just around the corner. Years later, Trump is still here, still a political force, while Schiff is still peddling the same tired lines. It's not just irony, it's humiliation. Schiff's career is now permanently tied to a man he swore he'd destroy, and history will remember him as the guy who barked for years but never landed a bite. Megyn also highlights Schiff's shameless fundraising off these antics. Every dire warning, every dramatic press conference, every ominous hint about national security just happened to coincide with emails begging for donations. Schiff didn't just exploit fear, he monetized it. He turned political paranoia into a subscription service, convincing loyal followers to bankroll his never-ending soap opera. And what did they get in return? Nothing but empty promises and Schiff's smug face on TV.
Didn't we just have a whole criminal investigation of Donald Trump for having documents at Mar-a-Lago that might have classified information in them? And we just can't have that. We can't have classified information running around out there in the hands of people who aren't authorized. Meanwhile, this is the former president of the United States who can declassify everything. We were told that for 2 years straight, the past 2 years by Democrats. And now what you're saying is that one of the most vocal about that, Adam Schiff, had been at the helm of releasing classified information.
His defenders argue that Schiff is just doing his job, that he's standing up for democracy. But Megyn Kelly calls that excuse for what it is: nonsense. Standing up for democracy doesn't mean dragging the country through endless show trials that lead nowhere. It doesn't mean turning congressional hearings into self-promotional stunts. It doesn't mean crying wolf so many times that even when something serious happens, people roll their eyes. Megyn Kelly's roast also cuts into Schiff's constant projection. He warns about misinformation while pushing narratives that never materialize. He brands himself as a defender of truth while leaving a trail of half-truths, exaggerations, and outright fabrications. Schiff doesn't just bend the rules. He warps them until they're unrecognizable. And he does it all with that same smug, self-righteous expression, as if daring anyone to call him out.
While this is only the unverified allegation of a single former staffer, the alleged conduct would involve criminal and unethical conduct of the highest order, if proven. Your reaction to this news?
Well, it's in keeping with my opinion of Adam Schiff. I've been calling him McCarthyite ever since he started in on Trump. And as John pointed out, McCarthy, at least there had some communists in the government that he was talking about, although he was irresponsible. Adam Schiff repeatedly came out and said, I have seen documents that indict, that link Trump to Russia, but I can't reveal them to you now, but just you wait, I'm going to reveal them. And of course, we know they weren't there. We know there was nothing there. Now we have this information from the whistleblower, my favorite part of which is when the whistleblower says he objected to the
At the core of Kelly's takedown is the undeniable fact that Adam Schiff is a fraud, not in the legal sense, but in the professional one. He's a man who packaged himself as a warrior for truth, but delivered nothing but theater. He turned serious matters into punchlines, overpromised results he couldn't deliver, and left the public more divided, more cynical, and more exhausted than ever. Schiff doesn't strengthen democracy. He cheapens it by turning it into reality television. And the final nail in his coffin? Schiff still doesn't get it. Even now, after years of failed predictions and theatrical flops, he continues to strut onto TV sets with the same misplaced confidence. But history won't. History has already written his legacy. Adam Schiff, the man who cried collusion, the man who turned hearings into a Broadway audition, the man who mistook political theater for leadership. Megyn Kelly doesn't just roast him, she annihilates him. She shows that Schiff isn't a watchdog of democracy, but a salesman of fear. He isn't a truth teller, but a truth bender. He isn't the hero he pretends to be, but the cautionary tale of what happens when politicians chase cameras instead of results.
So the whistleblower was reportedly very specific on the details. Like it doesn't sound like a lie because this person had a lot of details when speaking to the FBI. Quote, when working in this capacity, this whistleblower was called to an all-staff meeting by Schiff. In this meeting, Schiff stated the group would leak classified information, which was derogatory to the president.
And when the curtain finally falls, Schiff won't be remembered for defending the Constitution. He'll be remembered as the politician who promised a smoking gun, but delivered nothing but smoke. What makes the dismantling even more brutal is how Kelly contrasts Schiff's self-styled image with the actual consequences of his actions. He wanted to be remembered as a principled defender of democracy, the man who saw threats others ignored. Instead, his legacy is the face of political theater gone wrong, a cautionary tale of what happens when ambition outruns credibility. Schiff didn't protect institutions. He weakened them by turning them into partisan props. And that's the stain he can't scrub away. She drives the point home by noting how Schiff clung to television cameras like they were lifeboats on a sinking ship. While most lawmakers use media to highlight policy, Schiff used it to feed his ego, repeating the same baseless lines until repetition itself became his defense. To him, exposure was currency. The problem was every appearance also exposed the holes in his story. And Kelly delights in pointing out that America eventually noticed.
Have whistleblower interview transcripts from the FBI. They're not exactly transcripts, they're FBI write-ups of the interviews that they conducted with a whistleblower who's a self-described Democrat working for the Democrats on the House Intelligence Committee, who worked for them, by the way, for 10 years, who says that he was there in 2017 when he heard Adam Schiff say, "We are going to leak classified documents and intel to the media with the hopes of getting..."
And then comes the hypocrisy. Schiff built his career condemning others for dishonesty, yet his entire persona was anchored in exaggeration, selective leaks, and narratives designed to mislead. Kelly paints him as a politician who pointed one finger, while three pointed back at him. He wasn't the truth teller. He was a salesman. And once the product failed, the salesman had nothing left. That's why his credibility today is worth about as much as a Blockbuster membership card. The real destruction lands when Kelly zeroes in on the glaring disconnect between Schiff's inflated self-importance and his meager actual impact. Instead, what he managed to do was something far less noble. He chipped away at public trust, fueled division, and left people more cynical about government than ever. Kelly frames him not as a guardian of truth, but as a cautionary tale, a man who proved that even supposed watchdogs are chasing the same fame and relevance as the politicians they claim to hold accountable. Once exposed, the self-proclaimed crusader looks less like a hero and more like just another opportunist. Kelly doesn't just roast him. She buries him under the sheer weight of his own record, and it's not a flattering obituary. Schiff craved a legacy of a respected statesman, but what he leaves behind is something closer to internet parody. He's not the architect of grand policy or the defender of democracy he imagined. He's a meme, a punchline, the man who built a career on dramatic declarations that collapsed under scrutiny. Kelly drags that record into the light, showing how his greatest contribution wasn't progress or reform, but an endless string of empty promises. Once exposed, the cracks in his carefully polished persona become impossible to ignore, and the myth of Adam Schiff as a serious political figure dissolves. What remains is a hollow legacy, remembered more for noise than for substance.